Many things are still a baffling mystery in our world. Science doesn't quite yet have all the answers or all the keys to unlock the secrets of our universe. Every day, somewhere, someone sees something they can't explain. Something that we're told is not there, is not real, or simply doesn't exist. Too many reliable people tell of sightings and encounters with the unknown. The myths, legends, folklore, and old wives' tales are usually based in fact and in reality. When a witness to such a strange encounter finds no one believes them and faces ridicule from people they trust and love, they turn to us, the Alabama Bigfoot Society. Well, hello, and let's get started on part 2 of the Janney Furnace, Alabama adventure. I didn't mean to get as sidetracked as I did on the wrestling, but I guess you could probably tell that I really enjoyed wrestling back when I was younger, and we won't get back on wrestling again tonight. What I will tell you, though, is that once again I'll remind you that one of the computers did crash while we were putting this video together. That's why we lost a little bit of the video to begin with, but anyway, I know a segment or two repeated on there, but we thought we had it fixed. We thought we had it going good. I'm going to put that segment on next that we lost somewhere along the way. I did have a copy of it, but anyway, we're going to put it on real quick to kind of show you the opening when we found the museum. But anyway, what I want to tell you about now is what's going to be happening next. The man that did the narration of the museum up there is going to come back on, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about, I believe, some Indian artifacts and some other things. And I'll be back in just a few minutes to kind of tell you where the video is going. So right now, once again, from the tail end of the Appalachian Mountains in the heart of the South, around Janie Furnace, this is Alabama Adventures. Well, hold on and let me get sidetracked real quick. I won't hold you up long tonight. We'll get on back to the museum. But I have had a lot of people lately to ask me if I would do some history type stuff on Alabama. And I've always been interested in the history of Alabama and what made Alabama the state it is today. Although right now in some places it didn't turn out as well as we hoped it would. But anyway, that's just something you have to put up with sometimes. But there was a lot that went on in early Alabama. There was a lot that went on before Alabama became a state with the Native Americans and that type of stuff. I was always real interested in that when I was in school. But it seemed like our history class, we very seldom touched on Alabama. But we did have Alabama history in the 4th grade. I wish we'd have had it every year to where we could have really learned a lot about Alabama history. There is so much history here in Alabama. And I know a lot of times Alabama gets a bad name for this, that, and the other. But if you will kind of notice, whenever it comes to something first, the first time that something's done or some new idea or something like that, it usually comes out of Alabama. And Alabama, I don't mean to brag, but I guess I do in a way because I am from Alabama and I'm very proud to be from Alabama. Alabama has a lot of things that other states don't have. One thing I do want to mention real quick that Alabama has that will go down in history and chapters of history books will be written about this place is Talladega and the Talladega racetrack up there. It's the largest and the fastest racetrack in the world. It'll go down in history right along with the pyramids as a magnificent, gigantic man-made structure. There's just a lot of Vulcan statue. I have a video on that we're working on. But one of my holdups is my eyesight, and I can't read anything anymore. I can't see anything little right now. Hoping that will clear up. If I could read, I could get some more of these videos done, and I wish we had a way to get them out faster than what we're doing, but we put them together as fast and as quickly as we can, and sometimes we don't get them together exactly right, or especially whenever a computer crashes like this one did. But anyway, we're going to try to make up for that tonight and in these future videos that we're doing. I would really enjoy some of you out there, and some of you have contacted me lately wanting to help with some of these Alabama adventures. And I certainly appreciate that. And as a matter of fact, next week I have someone that is supposed to come down and we'll go to Horseshoe Bend, and I will tell as much history as I know about Horseshoe Bend, which is a very important place to be. It always has been, and some of you may be getting tired of Horseshoe Bend, but there was a lot of history, a lot of things that went on down there that actually changed the way that Alabama became a state and grew into a state and things. Especially some of the war councils and that type of stuff that went on, and I'll show you where all that happened when we start doing that video next week. It may be a month or two before we get it on, but just stay tuned and be patient with us. We'll get to it as we can. But now that I got sidetracked on that, telling you that I didn't get to read as much Alabama history as I wanted to whenever I was in school, we were always reading about something that wasn't important that happened over in some other foreign country that I didn't care anything about. I wanted to know what happened here where I live. But anyway, I will do my best to tell you some of the history. I was very glad to get this No Alabama history book several years ago. I wish I had some more of those and see what else they have added into the history book lately. But anyway, that's just the way it goes. Sometimes you get a hold of things like that and you want to hang on to them. And I intend to hang on to this last one that I've got for the rest of my life, because if I ever get to where I can read again, I'm going to read that book from cover to cover one more time, and I'll tell y'all what I find in it. But anyway, let's get on back up to Janie Furnace. Well, hello, and welcome to this Alabama adventure today. We're in Ohatchee, Alabama. Kind of just run up on Ohatchee. I've been knowing where Ohatchee was for a long time, but we were coming up to Fort Payne to a paranormal conference this weekend. We saw a sign that said Janney, I believe that's the way it's pronounced, Janney Furnace Civil War and Native American Museum. And we're going to go in and check it out. I'm going to let you see what the building looks like real quick. It's a very nice building. It seems like it's very new. I have been knowing about Ohatchee for a long time, but I never knew this was up here. But anyway, let's go inside and see what's in the museum.
These are exhibition pieces. And the reason this one is so big and the blades are so huge on it, it's because they would use this in a crowd. So look, we can make this kind of knife for you. They'd hold it up, be big enough the crowd can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can put these kind of blades on it. This was another exhibition piece here. They wouldn't make that into a knife, but they might make a knife. So we can put 10 blades on it for you. Choose which 10 you would like. All these were sales things.
Okay.
Here we have examples of Boy Scout and Girl Scout knives, some gear and manuals.
Okay. All right.
Oh, we'll come on right this way.
If you want to get some of this Indian stuff over here, we'll get a little bit of it if you want to.
If you so desire, we're kind of proud of it.
Yeah, gosh, yeah.
Comes from all around the area here, and some of it comes from a little further away.
Okay.
One interesting thing, you'll notice a lot of the arrowheads are black. They're obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that much obsidian around here,
Mm-hmm.
so there had to be some trade going on between various groups at the time. Of course, this is how they would make their bread from corn,
Yeah.
or maize, as they would call it.
I just want to get a lot of these odd tools and that type of stuff, you know.
Oh, okay.
And okay, yeah. That's what I always like looking for. Also was like the little bowls and
Yeah.
that type
These
of stuff.
are actually these are gaming pieces, they call them.
Oh, okay.
Game rocks, game stones. They would throw one of these down, and then gentlemen with the spear, like the one in the picture there, they would throw it, whichever one would come the closest to the rock when it settled, that would be the winner.
Oh, okay.
Which sounds a little dull for a game
Yeah.
to me, but the interesting part about it is quite often the loser would commit suicide. So I guess that added a little drama to it.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Okay, so now let's move along to this next segment of the museum, and I'll let him tell you more about it. What it is this particular section is going to tell you about how the widows of the soldiers were expected to dress, what they were expected to do after their husband was killed in action. So let's get to that segment.
Mourning traditions. If you can see the lady in there, she's dressed in that dress from head to toe. they would be expected to wear that for 1 year for their manhood fallen.
Yeah.
And in some places it wore it even longer. These perfume bottles just full of tears. Okay.
That's real interesting, yeah. Okay, now we're moving on around the museum, and we're about to come to one of the major focal points in this museum. It's a young man named Major John Pelham. He was a very famous son of Calhoun County, and a lot of information on him as he was a Confederate major in the Confederate Army. So I'm going to let him tell you about John Pelham.
Let's head on down this way. I'll show
Okay.
you the main focus of our museum is this young man here. It's Major John Pelham. Now we have a family story, unsubstantiated, but still comes down through lateral descendants of his. That young Pelham there, the only reason he got in the military was because he got in a fist fight up on the square at Jacksonville. And they took him to the judge, him and the other guy. It turns out, since the Pelham family was very prominent in Alexandria and Jacksonville, he was born in Alexandria.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they found out that the judge was his uncle. And his uncle said he was going to straighten up. Said he didn't have a choice on that. He would straighten up, but he would have a choice as to how. He said, I can either send you to jail or you can go into the military. Which do you want to do? He chose the military, and his uncle said, well, you've chosen wisely, so we're not going to make you actually join the Army. We're going to send you up to West Point, to the military academy, and go up there. He goes up there. He's a fairly average student in everything except geometry and associated with that, artillery. He seems to be a real genius with artillery. He reads up on a fellow named Sam Ringo, who was an artillerist in the Mexican-American War, and he reads up on this concept that he had called flying artillery. Now, everybody was following Napoleon's tactics back during the day, and their tactics were you just roll all your artillery up and fire it till you get your desired effect, and then you send your infantry in. But Sam Ringo said, no, the best thing to do is take very fast horses, light guns, and use flying artillery, which means you would fire and move, fire and move, fire and move, just keep going. So John loves that concept, and he practices it. He gets within 3 weeks of graduating from West Point, and the war between the states breaks out. So he asked, said, I'd like to stay and get my diploma. They said, if you stay to get your diploma, you also get a blue uniform and a lieutenant's insignia on the collar. And so he decided he couldn't do that with his parents back here in Alabama. So he and a lot of southern boys kind of left, and they came on back home here. They sent him up. His family's already got him letters of introduction and stuff. Send him up to the Army of Northern Virginia. He's placed under Jeb Stuart's command. Jeb Stuart, of course, is over the cavalry. And he gives John 2 mountain howitzers and says, here, you can play around with this artillery and do what you will. He did a lot of great things with it. And it kind of culminated at the Battle of Fredericksburg, when he was on the extreme right flank of the Confederate Army, all by himself, just his 2 guns and his people out there. And just so happened the Union Army tried to come around that flank. And they came at it with, I don't know how much infantry, but they had 25 guns. And they were firing on him. Now, Robert E. Lee, he knew him, and he saw him down there all by himself, and he was worried about him being killed or overrun or something. And they sent messages down to him. Jackson also sent a message to him and gave him orders to pull back. and he just wadded them up, told the messengers, go back and tell the generals I got the enemy where I want them. And he stayed there with his 2 guns. He finally took out all 25 of those enemy guns. One of his went out of action, not because of enemy fire, but because he had fired it so fast it was beginning to glow red, and he was afraid another charge would blow it up. So he took the one that he had left, started shooting a little slower, and he ran the infantry on back into Robert E. Lee's trap that he had set up at Fredericksburg. And basically he made what was going to be a bad day for the Union anyway, he made it a lot worse. From that, Robert E. Lee got him the nickname the Gallant Pelham, and he said of him that it makes one's heart jump with joy to see one so young, so brave. About a year after Fredericksburg, at Kelly Ford, Virginia, he's been wounded. He's on a sick bed, and a Union cavalry charge is coming at him, and he gets up off his sick bed to rally his troops, climbs on his horse, starts to lead a counter charge, and a Hotchkiss shell, I think they said it was Hotchkiss shell, explodes near him, hits him in the head. He falls off his horse. He dies about 7 hours later. Eyewitnesses said that when the message was received by Robert E. Lee, he fell to his knees and cried. He immediately promoted him posthumously to lieutenant colonel and ordered 5 people in the Army that was from around our area here in Calhoun County to take the body back home to Jacksonville. This is unprecedented in the Civil War. It's a very high honor. So they did. They brought him back, and he is buried in the Jacksonville City Cemetery in the front portion of it, which is called the Pelham Family Plot, because that's what it started out as. And there's a huge monument to him, and right behind the monument is his grave. Now, he's sort of our favorite son from Calhoun County because he's very famous. He's still studied this day. His artillery tactics are studied not just in the United States, but also around the world in other armies. And then around we have various books, implements. Here we've got some of the firearms that would have been used during that period. Right here, I kid everybody and tell them whenever it's Halloween, I decorate this up for my horror show.
Oh, okay.
This is Civil War era medicine. And you'll notice that right here you've got a sword-like device. That is actually a butcher knife and a bone saw combination. And this is what's done with it.
Okay.
They cut off limbs left and right. And during this Civil War period, the doctors, the surgeons, their first go-to was to cut something off. All that's not really the scary part. Here's the scary part. If you'll notice the little rock there, it's called a pain bullet. It's also called a pain rock or a pain stone, or a bite rock or a bite bullet. There's a lot of names for it. But that was used to put in the person's mouth, and they'd put it in there and say, now we're about to cut your arm off. Don't scream. Bite down on that, because if you scream, you're liable to upset the doctor and he'll do something wrong. Along with these little joys, we have what they call the flames. Now these are what I call the kinder, gentler flames. These are 1850s and 60s style. I've got some older ones from the 1700s back over there. The concept of the flame goes back into antiquity. The idea being that if you were sick, there was something in your blood that was bad and you needed to relieve some of that blood. So, but these are shorter and whatnot. Oh, they also used to use in the old days a leech. They'd cut you, they'd put that leech on there to draw more blood out. Well, they got more modern during the war here. They got these little glass things they would heat up. They would put on the wound. They called it the artificial leech or a bleeding cup, and that would draw the blood out. But they found out that these new flames, a lot of times they wouldn't start the blood going in some people. So they invented what they called the flame bat. That was just to drive that thing down in there till they got some blood going. So anytime people say, I wish I'd lived back then, I try and point this out to them and say, no, you really don't.
Yeah.
This is riding tack
Yeah.
associated with cavalry and whatnot.
All right.
These are everyday items from the period.
Yeah, let me just get a little bit of that.
Really pretty. A lot of it's very, very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how comfortable it is, but it's very pretty.
All right. All righty, we're moving on along. Now we're on the back wall of the museum as we are about to learn about the HL Hunley. I believe the HL Hunley was the first submarine that was ever used in war. I believe that's what it was developed for. I'm not sure. I'm going to let him tell you about the Hunley submarine and all the details on it. One thing I do want you to kind of pay attention to near the end of the story is kind of struck me as something a little paranormal. This lady gave one man on there, I don't remember exactly who it was, but alrighty, we're moving on along. Now we're on the back wall of the museum as we are about to learn about the HL Hunley. I believe the HL Hunley was the first submarine that was ever used in war. I believe that's what it was developed for. I'm not sure. I'm going to let him tell you about the Hunley submarine and all the details on it. One thing I do want you to kind of pay attention to near the end of the story is kind of struck me as something a little paranormal. This lady gave one man on there, I don't remember exactly who it was, but he'll tell you in just a few moments who it was. She gave him a coin to remember her by as he was in war. He placed the coin over his heart. He got shot at one point, and the bullet hit the coin and saved his life. And later on, this coin was found in his pocket. Although he did wind up getting killed in the war, he still had the coin that his girlfriend gave him when he left to go to war. But anyway, it was kind of paranormal that's what she gave him this coin for, was for good luck. But anyway, we always have to have a little paranormal something, or it just wouldn't be Alabama Adventures, would it? But anyway, let's get on to this segment. Okay.
In combat. And it was the brainchild of Mr. Horace Hunley here, who tried for 2 years to sell the concept to the Confederate Navy. But they, being very conservative sailing men, thought that it was ridiculous to try and fund a vessel that the first thing it's supposed to do is, sink. Mm-hmm. Well, so he wasn't having any luck with that, but he did hear from Confederate General Beauregard, who was up in South Carolina at the time, and he thought that it might be a good thing to try and break the blockade with this. Now, Hunley's down in Mobile Bay. That's where he's testing this thing. He's lost 4 crews testing it. So he puts it on a railroad. They take it up to South Carolina. He takes it out for another test. Loses another crew to include himself. Mr. Hunley's killed this time. But they find the sub, bring it up. They turn over command of it to a Lieutenant Dixon, Confederate Army. And he takes over. He trains people. He learns how to use the submarine. They finally take it out, and they sail out, and they find the Confederate blockade ship, Union blockade ship, Housatonic, and they ram the Housatonic with that harpoon-looking device through the wood, break the wood open, and they run that little keg up in there. The keg's full of blasting powder with a match device and a cable that runs back into the submarine. They pull that, it blows up, the Housatonic goes down, and the Hunley disappears for 150 years. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinking, well, the keg must have been too close to the sub, and it tore it open and probably got sucked up in the Housatonic, and they both went down together. But that overlooks paperwork that was kept that night. There was a land crew waiting for a signal from these guys. They got their signal, and it was a flash, 3 flashes on a blue light. That meant we've accomplished our mission. We are headed back to land. So that's what was happening. So now the theory is what got them was, as they were coming back, one of the Union ships going to help the Housatonic and get the sailors out of the water, keep them from drowning, just without even knowing it, probably ran over the Hunley, slammed it to the ground. So then they got down there, hatches apparently jammed. They couldn't get out, and depending on how fast water came into the thing, they either drowned or asphyxiated.
Yeah.
Now there's a side story to this. When they found the Hunley, 150 years later. They were trying to identify the bodies. They were especially looking for Lieutenant Dixon, see if they could get him. And somebody remembered that studying their history, he had a girlfriend by the name of Queenie Bennett. That's her picture right on the far side over there. And when he first joined the Confederate Army, she gave him a gold coin. Says, "This is a token of my affection. Take it with you." He said, "I'll keep it over my heart." And he did, and he went off to the Battle of Shiloh, got shot right in that coin. That's why our model of it here is all bent up like that. So he said, "Wow, this thing saved my life." So he wrote "Lifesaver" across the top and Queenie Bennett under the bottom. And he said, "I'm going to carry this over my heart my whole life." And put it in there. So they started going through the clothes, the bodies, and right over this one's heart they found the coin, had "Lifesaver" Queenie Bennett, so they could identify the body as Lieutenant
I'll
Dixon.
be doggone. So this is actual pictures of men that were actually on this thing.
Well, it's it's drawing,
Yeah.
artist rendition
Yeah,
of it, but yeah, that's supposed to be who it was.
Well, I'll be doggone. All right.
See the big, huge bear trap back there?
Yeah.
That's the reason that most of your mountain men and trappers wanted to have a lot of sons.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to be setting that bad thing themselves all the time.
Yeah. All right.
Different firearms that were used.
Yeah.
Now that some of these on the bottom is called boys' rifles from around the 1890s,
Oh, yeah.
1900s.
I see. Yeah.
And that was because back in those days, everybody thought that every American should know how to shoot. So they actually made little smaller versions so the boys could learn to shoot.
Yeah. We get that bugle, and then picture there. We'll move on around right over here some more.
During the westward movement, there's various tools and weapons, hunting knives used. This is kind of a salute to the gold miners.
Oh, okay.
California Gold Rush, of course, started a lot of the westward movement. We got a piece of pyrite back there to show what made great joy turn into horrible sorrow for a lot of people. One little story that kind of ties us together to it. First gold rush in the United States was over in Galena, Georgia.
Yeah.
And a lot of your folks that were over there, well, the gold was running out when they found it in California. A lot of your 49ers, they call them, were actually from Georgia. They said, "Well, gold's running out here. Let's get out there to California and get some."
So they had to just go wherever it was. Yeah.
This is our newest exhibit right here. The bottom part's a kind of salute to Ivor Johnson.
Oh, okay.
And he's famous for his shotguns, but he actually made pistols, rifles, knives, musical instruments, baby buggies, a lot of things.
I didn't know all that.
Everybody knows about. We're real proud of this. This is a set of original Benjamin Franklin bifocals.
Yeah.
And that was the next iteration of bifocals that came out after the Ben Franklins.
Oh, okay.
And this is a stereoscope, which I like to tell the young kids when they come in here. This is the virtual reality and television set of the 1840s.
Way back. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, now in this upcoming segment, you're fixing to hear something that you won't hear anywhere else, and you'll probably hear this denied. Probably attempts made on my life and the man at the museum for saying this, but there were actually black people, black men who served in the Confederate Army, and that's what we're fixing to talk about right now. I get so tired of Alabama racism. I'll just shut up before I get to cussing, because I do not try to, I hope I do not cuss on these videos, as I know I do have some young viewers watching. But racism is one of the places where it doesn't go on as much as people think down here in Alabama. I want you to listen to what he has to say. Also, he's going to tell you about this man. His name was Charles Bush, and he was a very highly thought of man in Calhoun County as well as in the Confederate Army. He'll also tell you that there were blacks in the Union Army, but they were in all black companies. There was no whites with them. It was not integrated. But here in the South, where it is estimated between 10 and 15,000 black men fought for the Confederacy. I'm not making this up. This is what he's going to tell you is fact in just a minute, and I do want people to listen to this closely. That there were between 10 to 15,000 black men who fought for the Confederate Army, and they were sprinkled throughout the Army. They were not in all black units, anything like that. They were black men that were in the white units, or what do you want to call it. And as he said, it's something I had never thought of, but I do want you to pay attention to what this man says. The Confederate Army was probably the first totally integrated army in the world. So, with my opinions on that and my views on that, it makes me think back to a John Wayne movie I watched one time. I believe it was Cahill, U.S. Marshal. If you want to watch it, go back and check it. He was a U.S. Marshal, and he caught like 4 or 5 men that had done something, robbed a bank or something, and he caught, and one of those men was black. And he told him real quick, and I feel the same way. John Wayne said, now, was talking to this black man. He said, now there's not a prejudice bone in my body. If you try to escape, I'll kill you just as quick as I will a white man. And I thought that was pretty good. That's pretty much the way I feel. I don't discriminate or feel prejudice toward anybody for any race. If you want me to hate you, do something to make me hate you. I won't hate the entire race, but I will hate you. That's just my opinion on it, and we still know what Clint Eastwood says about opinions, but I do want you to pay close attention to this next segment.
Before it was burnt, and these, of course, stone areas are what's left of it today.
Oh, okay.
And then I'd like to point out Mr. Charles Bush here. He was a slave to the Tom Bush family, and he lived real close to where John Pelham was. He and John were about the same age.
Okay.
As children, they played together, grew up as young men. They hunted and fished together. They were good friends. And when John came back from West Point, Charles wanted to go with him, go off to war. And he said, well, you've got stuff you have to finish here, and I have to leave right now. If you're serious about wanting to fight, just join one of the local units that's gearing up. So he did. He joined the 10th Alabama Infantry, and he marched off to war with them. He became a corporal in short order. He was decorated 3 times for extreme courage. And he was loved by everybody in the unit because he knew medicine. So guess what? A lot of his people that got wounded, he took care of it. They didn't have to go see Mr. Surgeon, and nobody wanted to go see Mr. Surgeon. When John was killed, Charles here was one of the people chosen, one of the 5 chosen to take the caisson back to Jacksonville, which he did. But he also took it upon himself to get John's saddlebags and his pistols. Brought them all the way back down here to Alabama and gave them back to the Pelham family. So he's well
thought of. Yeah.
You can see from his picture, he lived a long time after the war.
Yeah.
During this period of his life, he marched in all the Confederate memorial parades. He received a pension for his Confederate military duty from the state of Alabama. His name's up with all of our other veterans, which should be.
Yeah, I want to get a shot of that.
He's buried in an unmarked grave. That was not unusual. After the Civil War, a lot of people were so poor most people were so poor down here, they couldn't afford the markers and everything.
All you could put up was a rock, yeah.
So didn't even get that sometimes. But the records show that his grave's about 4 graves over from John Pelham in the Pelham family plot.
Oh, okay.
So that's how well thought of it was.
Highly thought of, yeah. And back in those days, yeah, for that. Sure was, yeah, okay.
I just like to bring that up to show that indeed there were people of all color in the Confederate Army. I think the blacks, they say, maybe less than 1%. You got estimates of 3,000 to 10,000, some maybe 15,000. Either one of those is still a lot of people.
It is, yeah.
And, an interesting thing about it, they had black soldiers up north also.
Oh, yeah.
But they were in all black units. Most of the ones in the South were in, just in units
sprinkle
right
in,
the others.
yeah.
So one of the great ironic facts of the war, to me, is that the first American army that was totally integrated was the Confederate Army.
Yeah. Well, see there, what did I tell you? But let's move on to something a little less controversial. Have you ever seen the old comic strip or the old cartoons with Popeye? Did you know that Popeye once lived in Ohatchee, Alabama? At least that's where the guy that drew him lived for a while, and now he's going to tell you about Popeye and the man who drew him in Ohatchee, Alabama.
I was first drawn by a Mr. Sagan. I think he was from up in Illinois. And he was brought into the Sunday comic strips as he wasn't brought in as a major character. He was bringing him in just to be a boyfriend to Olive Oil, who was part of the Oil family.
Okay.
In which you had Papa Oil, Mama Oil, Olive Oil, and a little baby oil, also known as Sweet Pea.
Yeah.
But Popeye was just fabulous. Everybody loved him, so they started wanting to hear more about him. Okay. Well, Mr. Sagan died after about 8 years of drawing Popeye, and they had to get somebody to take him over. They wanted somebody that had good stories they could write, adventure stories for Popeye. So they got a Mr. Tom Sims. Mr. Sims from out here at Ohatchee. And he did some fabulous stories with Popeye. And they asked him one time, how did you do all this? He said, well, when I was a boy, my father was a captain of the Leota, that picture up here, ship, which was owned by the Corps of Engineers, and they would dredge the Coosa River out there, the channel. So as a young boy, he would ride on his dad's boat, and he would daydream about the Coosa River being the ocean and having all kinds of adventures. We just transferred that over to Popeye and made the cartoons. And so I always like to say that Popeye is just a good old Ohatchee boy.
Yeah. Well, I sure did not know that. Okay.
Had a lot of interesting people stay there, Davy Crockett being one of them for a while. And Chief Ladiga of the White Stick Creeks that were allied to the Americans.
Yeah.
Sam Houston was there for a while too.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that pretty much ended the inside tour of the museum, and we decided to go outside. There is a monument, 3 walls up there that have all the names of the Confederate soldiers that served from Calhoun County. I almost forgot the name of the county in doing the video, as you'll see in just a minute. You'll also see somebody there walking along with me to begin with. This is CC, is what I call him now, or that's what he likes to be called, because C is the 3rd letter of the alphabet, so that's 33. And I accuse him of being a 33-degree Mason and probably one of the head figures in the Illuminati. But anyway, CC helps me a lot of times with my eyesight, helping me get around, like in stores, and helping me find stuff, and reads labels for me and price tags and that type of stuff. But anyway, we walked on up to the Confederate Memorial Wall, as I said, where all the names of the soldiers who did serve from Calhoun County are there, and Charles Bush's name is also on this, the black man that we just told you about a while ago that served in the Confederate Army. His name is also on there, and I don't know how many other names that are black men names on this on these 3 walls. But anyway, I'll just let you watch the video here as we go on up there. Okay, now today we have just left the museum, and we're going to walk up here to where the wall, I'm not sure exactly what it's called. It's a wall that's got all of the Confederate soldiers' names that actually were from this county. And I'll have to remember what this county was in a minute. What? I believe it's Calhoun. It may not be, but anyway, we'll get that corrected. Here we are walking up toward the memorial. You can see there's some Confederate flags back there behind it, and we'll just get a little quick shot of it. All right, let me get a little shot of this statue, and we'll see what this right over here says. Very nice rock work up here today and everything in this. We'll just give you a little quick shot of that. The sun's getting bright and my eyes aren't the best. in the world, and we'll just walk right by that. Okay, here's the memorial wall that has the names of all the soldiers. And here's another picture of John Pelham, who is one of the county's prominent sons. Very nice. You really need to come visit this if you're into Alabama history, a place that I did not know existed until today, and it's very nice. Yeah, it is Calhoun County, the Calhoun County Confederate Memorial. Janie Furnace in Ohatchee, Alabama. Also has a couple of little benches if you'd like to sit down. And I'm sure this is Robert E. Lee. Yep. But it's a very nice memorial. Very lot of money was put into this thing. And if you're up this way in Ohatchee, Alabama, you need to come by. Very interesting tour. And here we are at the remains, or what's left of the furnace that he was telling about that the Union Army burned, and this is all that's left. But it is a very nice place to come see it. As I said, it's a place that I did not know existed. I wish I could get up here more often. It's very interesting, a lot of history right here in Alabama. And let's get a little shot of the historical marker real quick. The sun's coming out now. It's been cloudy this morning. And we'll get a shot of it real quick. Let me see if I can read this to you. It says, the furnace was constructed by Montgomery businessman Alfred Janney, reportedly using slaves brought from Tennessee by Dr. Smith. Of course, it had to have a Smith in it. Furnace was completed and ready to produce pig iron when on July 14, 1864, a Union cavalry raiding force of 2,300 men led by Major General Lowell H. something crossed the Coosa River at 10 Islands en route to destroying the railroad between Montgomery and West Point, Georgia, which we have talked about in the past. And speaking of West Point, I'll tell you something about that in just a minute. Learning of the location of the furnace, Rousseau dispatched his engineer officer, Captain Ed Ruger, and a detachment to destroy the chimney of the furnace, leaving the stone structure in place. They also burned all wooden buildings intended to support operation of the furnace. That's just what the historic marker says. And anyway, I guess I need to get on down the road right now. And here's the sign you'll be looking for when you get to the Janie Furnace Park. There'll be a stop sign, so you'll have to stop and read it. Well, I guess that concludes the tour of the Calhoun County Civil War and Indian Museum up there in Ohatchee. I hope you enjoyed that little tour through the museum. Now, I know that's not what has been one of my best videos as far as me doing some videoing. I've just kind of got to get used to videoing museums and other historical little sites that we'll be roaming around to here in Alabama, hopefully in the weeks to come. And one of my viewers, I won't call her name, but she's over from West Alabama. She commented on one of the last videos and said she would certainly like to visit this museum sometime. Well, if you'll just come by and pick me up, I'll be glad to ride up there with you, because I'd like to go back too. Anyway, someone told me that she was kind of partial to sardines, a can of beanie weenies, and a pack of crackers for dinner. But if I can convince her to go, I'll try to convince her to run by Wendy's, and we'll eat dinner there that day rather than eating sardines. I don't care too much for sardines myself. I'd rather have a single, I believe is what Wendy's hamburgers are called. But anyway, all she's got to do is give me a holler and tell me what day she's coming. We'll run back up there. All right, and as this video comes out of turn 4 and goes toward the finish line, let me just tell you a little something else about sardines and beanie weenies and buying a sausage and potted meat with a pack of crackers. Now, that's what we used to call a sawmill dinner or a sawmill lunch here in Alabama, because that's pretty much what you ate if you were cutting pulp wood or if you were working at the sawmill back in the 70s or earlier. You just didn't have a place to go eat dinner every day like Wendy's or McDonald's or something like that. You just picked up some canned goods every morning at the store and took off to wherever you were going to work, and that's what you had that day, of course, with an ice cold RC Cola. It was nothing like RC Colas back in those days, but I hadn't had one of those in a long, long time. But to that young lady I was talking about a while ago over in West Alabama, and I'm sure she knows who she is, I was just kidding. But if you do want to go up there sometime, just let me know. Be glad to ride up there with you. I'll buy lunch as long as we stop at Wendy's or somewhere like that. But anyway, let me get this video closed on out and say, as I always do, that hello to my granddaughter Madison. I also like to tell you that the Alabama Bigfoot Society is run completely out of pocket, as I always say that. If you're in a position to where you could make a donation and would like to, that would be very much appreciated. All you have to do is to go to alabamabigfootsociety.com. And right there on the front page, you'll find a place where you can make a donation. And if you like this video, I hope you give us a like. And if you like what we're doing down here, come down sometimes. We'll eat a sawmill dinner. I'll buy you one of those sometime. But anyway, we hope you subscribe to the channel. I was just thinking about the sawmill and the sawmill dinner. You might, we can't put it on this video because it's copyrighted, but you might want to click in Mel Tillis Sawmill, and that will pull up that song. You might enjoy listening to that sometime. And as Mel would say, "Mercy on a poor boy, mercy on a poor boy. Let me have a dollar bill." Anyway, I guess we'll be seeing you next time on the next Alabama adventure, and Chico and I will see you on down the road.